within 18 months, our studio there, we were doing 800 sessions a week. So we're one of the most successful personal training studios in the country.
Ben Lucas is the co-founder of Flow Athletic and the head coach for Sydney Marathon.
I was in Fiji, Tony Robbins Business Mastery. I got like 30 seconds of FaceTime with the big man. He was like, okay, here you go. You get one question. I'm like, okay, all right, Big Tone. I said, what? If I want to have a world-class business,
Yes.
what should I do? It's like, right, this is the easy one it is. Just
Ben Lucas, welcome to The House Story.
thank you so much for having me on.
Mate, I'm very excited to maybe just go back. We love to start here at The House Story with the origin stories or the early stories. So maybe you could take me back to school and just tell me a little bit about Ben as a student.
Well, yeah, so I am one of 6 children. I'm the 5th of 6 children. I
Wow.
didn't grow up with a lot, but I also went without nothing as well. So 3 boys, 3 girls. So I was the third boy, so I'd get 3 generations of hand-me-downs, and that was all cool. And I guess different time back then, you were just out, had to be home by the time the street lights were on, just out riding your bike, riding a skateboard, kicking a football, all things like that. So yeah, no, I had a pretty blessed childhood growing up in Cronulla, just with all the local rat bags down the park and down the beach. But yeah, no, I wouldn't have changed it for anything.
And so you went into playing rugby?
Yeah, so I was a bit of a man child growing up. I was probably the same size I am now at about 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I started playing rugby league like 5, 6 years old. I was always pretty good natural athlete. Athletics, rugby league, rugby union, basketball. Yeah, I just loved sports. I was a pretty aggressive young man and just with the will to win. So yes, sport was my game growing up.
Did you already start playing as you were finishing school, like year 11 and 12, or did the passion for rugby really evolve after school?
So no, in high school, so I started playing like juniors for the Cronulla Sharks when I was 15, and then I was playing rugby league, rugby union, and basketball at the same time. And then I had to kind of choose a direction at that age, at 15, about which one I really wanted to focus on and try to make a career out of. So I chose rugby league and just really pin the ears back and try to make myself as good as I can be in that field.
What made you choose rugby?
I liked hitting people and getting hit.
Okay.
And it was a good outlet to do that.
Did it take a lot for you from a mindset point of view to compete or to play professional level sport?
No, not really, because in whatever, be it the training, be it in a run, be it in the gym, being out on the field, I just like pushing myself and just seeing how much I had and seeing how good I could be and just testing my own limits. That wasn't necessarily about me being better than the next guy or the other team. It was just seeing how good I could be versus me.
Where does that come from, Ben?
Yeah, and I guess, as I said, growing up one of 6 kids, and we didn't have much money growing up, and seeing your parents fight about money and things like that, and you're like, right, if I'm going to make something of myself and be something in this world, it's going to be me, and I'm going to have to do it on my own, and that's a blessing in a way, because I realized when I'm young that if I was going to achieve anything, it's going to be off the back of my own hard work.
Are either of your parents quite competitive?
Well, my old man played rugby league for Manly many years ago, but I definitely got my work ethic from my beautiful mother. She passed away 17 years ago.
Sorry.
But no, that's okay. And she was a full-time night shift nurse, so she would work, 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. And then she'd look after 6 kids. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you know? So she was the most incredible human outside of being my mother that I've ever come in contact with. So she is where I got my inspiration from, and my work ethic, and my, you know, love for my family, and my ability to focus and achieve and overcome odds is definitely come from my mother.
And so how many years did you play rugby for?
So I mean, as a junior from like 15 years, but as a professional, semi-professional, so I started at 18 till like 25, so 7 years. I started at Cronulla, then I played in the Queensland Cup, then I played in New Zealand, and then I came back and played for the mighty Newtown Jets,
Yes.
and then I finished off down in the Wollongong comp. So yeah, it just kind of got to the stage where I knew I was never going to be, you know, a world beater. Yes, I could still make money from it, but I'd seen too many players of kind of my level, the kind of like fringe first gradey players, that when the music stops in their 30s, that then they've got to get skills, then they've got to get education, then they start the job, and that's really hard in their 30s. So then I kind of made the decision in my early mid-20s that I would stop then and focus on my what's next. So I really wanted to try and make something of myself in whatever field that was going to be.
I feel like if you'd been committed to rugby for, what's that, you know, almost 10 years, maybe a little over,
Yeah.
to then decide that you're going to drop that and venture into something new is huge, right?
Kind of yes and no. Like I've had a few kind of pivots over the years, and my view of that is, as long as I gave it all that I had, you know, in rugby league, I gave it the best I had, and I could walk away and move to the next thing with my head held high and not look back, because I was as good as I could be. And now the next thing, I was a personal trainer, and I'm like, that's it. I want to be the best personal trainer in Australia, and then just focus on that. And then from there, it was a business owner, right? How can I be the best boutique fitness business owner on the planet? So kind of at each step, I just focus on trying to be as good as I can at that. And that the step before that, that's gone. That's history. You know, there's no point looking back.
I think a lot of people struggle with sort of finding what is their passion or what is going to be their next. So how did you go about, I suppose, deciding I'm finishing with rugby, fitness, personal training is my next?
Yeah. So during my, you know, playing rugby league, you know, I wasn't on huge bucks. So in between hours, I was working in the fitness industry anyway. And I just really liked it. Again, being being the fifth of six kids, I grew up amongst lots of older friends of my brothers and sisters, and it really helped my ability to be able to communicate with people of all ages. And, you know, being a good fitness industry entrepreneur is about as much about your fitness knowledge as it is your ability to build connections and your ability to communicate with people. So I was a pretty good communicator from a young age. So I just really enjoyed working with people, helping them feel better about themselves through health and fitness, and then seeing the butterfly effect that had. When they feel better about themselves, they have better relationships with their partners, with their families. They're better at their jobs. They have bigger goals of what they can achieve in their lives when they go, well, I can now run faster. I lost some weight. I look better in the mirror. What else can I achieve in my life?
And how did you go from personal training into business ownership? Like what made, because not everybody, I mean, I know a lot of personal trainers as well. I'm
Yeah.
sure you do as well. What made you go, hey, for me, the next step is jumping into running a fitness studio, which also has quite high capital outlay, right?
For sure. So, you know, the fitness industry in 2025 is quite saturated, though like early 2020, like COVID, we lost 38% of fitness businesses internationally.
Wow.
So
Is
we
that
cut
right?
back a bit. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Uh,
huge.
But now they're kind of on their way back. But so when I started as a full-time trainer, so I went to Loftus TAFE in 1997. There you go. That's how
Okay.
old I am. To study my health and fitness certificate. I don't even think that exists anymore. And then, I went into personal training, and the business that I was personal training for started franchising. So then I opened one of their first personal training franchises. And again, fitness industry was not saturated back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
No. Yeah.
So I opened my first franchise, my own first gym, personal training studio.
What brand was that?
It was called Vision
Gotcha.
in 2005 in Mossman. So why did I choose Mossman? At the time, I had a client who's now still a good friend that would train with me in Caringbah in the early 2000s. He'd go from Mossman to Caringbah. So people that don't know listening, that's about a 30-minute drive, which is a fair way, which you don't have to do. But just because he heard that I was a pretty good PT, and then from getting to know him, I found that Mossman was a pretty good area and there wasn't that many fitness businesses out there. So I decided to this is a good story. So I'm 24, 25. I want to open a fitness business in Mossman, and there at that time there was nothing for rent. There was no commercial
space.
spaces out there.
Oh, wow.
So then I've said, right, F this. I'm going to go door knock on every business on Military Road
Oh, wow.
and see if anyone wants to get out of their lease. And I'm going to take that because this is the area I want to be in. Again, I was 25-year-old kid with more front than woolies, and I was just going to boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
Hey, how you going? Because I spoke to real estate agents and they said, A, we've got nothing for lease, and B, if we did, we wouldn't give it to you anyway. I went, cool.
No
All
worries.
right.
I'll find my own.
Yeah, I'll find my own. And fortunately, there was a yoga studio there
What?
that was not doing great, that they did want to get out of their lease.
Oh.
And I took that over. And then within 18 months at our studio there, we were doing 800 sessions a week.
Gee whiz. That's huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
So we're one of the most successful personal training studios in the country within 18 months. It was quite a extraordinary growth, extraordinary journey.
How'd that
You
happen?
couldn't really do it these days because there's just too much competition. Or so you could do it. Sorry, I don't like to say absolutes. How did we do it? But back in those days, again, I was the head trainer, I was the manager, I was the owner, I was delivering leaflets, I was the toilet cleaner, I was
Doing everything.
I was everything. I was still living in Cronulla at that time. So again, for those listeners, that's about a 35-minute drive. Sometimes I'd work 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'd sleep on gym mats, get up in the morning, have a shower, brush my teeth and do it all again. And I look back at that time, and that was probably some of my happiest times in my life because I just had that burning desire, that fire in the belly to A, to be successful, and B, to make money because, again, I knew no one was going to hand it to me. I wanted to have that growth for myself.
Do you refer back to that as being your happiest time, and you sort of say that was the fire within you that caused that? Do you feel like you've lost that, or do you feel like you lost that at some point through your journey?
No, I don't feel that I've lost it per se. It's just I just had a singular focus then, and now, since then, of that franchise, I had 1, 2, 3 gyms of those, and those franchise systems were amazing. They taught me how to be a good business person. But as I grew, the franchise systems that helped me grow to that level ended up being a cage because I wanted to go beyond that. And the next step for me was to have my own brand. But I'm sure we'll get into that. So yeah, I was happy because I was young, because I was focused, because everything
hungry.
was growing. I was hungry, but now I mean it's different reasons. Now I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got other things to think about. It's not all about me.
Okay. And so you ended up scaling, you said, to now 3 locations
In
with that franchise?
with the franchise,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
And that was a huge learning experience for me too, managing managers, having teams over 3 different locations. And then also the fitness industry is such a big dick competition too, in terms of, how many locations do you have? Blah, 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 And then when I scaled in inverted commas from 1 to 3 locations, I was making the same amount of profit with 3 times the stress.
Gotcha.
So that was a good learning
Yes.
experience for me that, again, when you're at a fitness conference and when you meet new people and you go, "Good day, nice to meet you," and they go, "Where are you from? And how many locations do you have?" That's all I care about. I've got 20. Well, I've got 25. Well, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good lesson to learn early on, right? Is that it's, I suppose you've got to be quite profit driven in a sense that if you're going to take on the extra stress of having 3 locations, you'd want to walk out of that with a healthy profit rather than just doing extra work.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of ego, and I'm sure we'll get onto what I'm doing now, but for me now, it's less about ego. It's more about 2 things: profitability, but it's also lifestyle
Yeah.
as well. I mean, impact and lifestyle, because, I've got 2 beautiful children, 6 and 8, and I want to see them, and I want to spend time with them, and I want to grow. And, we also have a phenomenal business that makes money, but what's the limit? Do I want 2, 3, 10, 20 locations? Like, will more money make me more happy and see my kids less? Like, I think one of the great things about the fitness industry over the years is I've got to know hundreds of people quite well, and I can guarantee you can't graph, happiness and people's wealth doesn't sit on the same XY graph, and I've met some very extremely wealthy people that are miserable. Also poverty doesn't bring happiness either, but more isn't necessarily better. So if you can kind of find the combination, the sweet spot of where you're making, enough money to run your household, but also you can spend enough time where I really value spending time with my wife and children, well, then that's what success looks like for me.
And what about to a young individual, Ben, maybe similar to you in the early days, that's wanting to start a fitness business? What advice would you be giving to them?
So, like, if you're good enough, there's still space in the market. Don't be put off by, and you see it every day still in areas where you think, no way, that's completely saturated, be it sneakers, be it gyms, be it supplements, whatever, and you go, right, no one else. There's just no room for that. And then someone comes out and blitzes it, and you go, wow, there is actually room if you're brilliant. So I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second here.
Sure.
One of the big changes that I have seen in the fitness industry over the last 20 years is the depreciation in value of education. So, you know, when I was coming up in the 90s, in the early 2000s, you know, everyone, we were course junkies. We would do TRX, BOSU, nutrition, boxing, blah, blah, blah. We just want to learn. What other tool can I put in my toolbox
Yes.
so I can be a better trainer, so I can give my clients a better service? Philex, which is the Australian Fitness Convention, which is now owned by a good mate of mine, Dan Henderson. Everyone, you should try and get there. There used to be, I reckon it'd be 10,000 people
That's right.
would go over 3 days, and it was amazing. It was like, you know, Disneyland for people in the fitness industry. You do a spin workshop, and then you do a nutrition workshop, then you do a public speaking, and then you that have the best speakers from around the world. Now, 2025, so let's say, you know, 2,000, we're getting 10,000 people to Philex. How many people you reckon are going in 2025?
Much less.
150.
Is that right?
Yeah. And you know why? Because people don't give a fuck. They only care about how many Instagram followers they have. You know, and that is the big change for me. So if I was a young person starting out again, I would, you know, kind of play it the way I did and still value education, because it's fabulous that you've got 100,000 followers and you look great in booty shorts. But at some stage, you've still got to train a client. You've still got to lead a team. You've still got to actually speak to people. And if you can't do those things, well, then you're not going to have a business.
Yeah, I feel like there's this epidemic of sort of false information now, or just uneducated speakers online that maybe haven't walked the walk yet, right? Or you know, done the right level of training, and yet they are teaching or preaching how to do certain things.
Yeah, for sure. And it just blows my mind that, and I don't know if I'm just the boomer and I don't get it anymore, but to me, education is a fundamental part of being a great trainer. Like, and there's always so much more to learn, because science, our knowledge is growing.
Constantly changing.
You know, so I know my team at Flow, so I've got 15 odd trainers. Our focus this year is on training for perimenopausal and menopausal women. We're doing workshops, we're doing courses, we're educating ourselves, because that's a large segment of our clientele, about how we can service them better. We're working with Mish Reich, who's one of Australia's head educators when it comes to that particular subject matter. We're doing her course. We had her in person, we had her in line, and our team are learning and growing for that. Because I know myself, and I'm, you know, I'd put myself in the top 1% of having educated myself over the last 20 years in the fitness industry. I didn't know a lot about that particular topic because there wasn't the education out there, and now there is, and now we can learn as trainers and give that segment of the population a better service. And it's not through likes or shares, it's from doing the work. And now I can now share that with my clients about better ways and times for them to train, better things for them to eat, better recovery techniques from them through science, not just TikTok.
What do you feel like there are any common misconceptions in the fitness space? Any that really frustrate you?
It probably not misconceptions per se, but just that thing, just about just learning, education, growth. That in the end, you still need to train people. You still need to educate people. But if you don't have that education yourself, how are you going to pass it on to them? Because it's not a one size fits all. Men and women are different, so they are going to train differently. But when they have different goals, when they're at different ages, when they're at, all those different things, when they've got different physical makeups, when they've got injuries, all that stuff. You need to learn. You need to have all those tools in your toolkit to be able to execute to those clients.
What do you feel like advice you would give to maybe a personal trainer that's wanting to learn more? Like, where would you be pointing them?
So I think it's called Ausreps, which is now the Australian Fitness Board. That's always a good resource for when there's new courses, where there's new speakers, where there's new knowledge coming out. I would also look at things like the fundamental. There's FILEX, there's Australian Fitness Conventions, there's all of those things that are coming out, and I would actually spend time doing longer courses as well. Do you have a good understanding of nutrition? Do you have a good understanding of resistance training? I get that you might have a particular field that you're passionate about, and that's great, but having a holistic knowledge of how your clients are going to get results is how it's, and not just by following someone that's good at it.
And aside from the knowledge piece, Ben, what advice would you be giving to a PT that's wanting to increase their business volume?
Well, I think, so how did I get to where I am today? It's knowledge and it's mentors as well. So trying to find people in the industry that are where you want to be and try to understand how did they get there. So what steps did they take to get to be where you want to be? So 2003, something like that, I was in Fiji, Tony Robbins Business Mastery, and I got 30 seconds of FaceTime with the big man. And it's like, okay, here you go. You get one question. I'm like, okay, all right, Big Tone. I said, what if I want to have a world-class business?
Yes.
What should I do? And he's like, right, this is an easy one. He goes, just find the businesses that are doing what you want to do and just do that. And I walked away, I was like, wow, I spent 15 grand on that. What is that shit? But now looking back on it, it is some of the most valuable information I've ever got, because in any area now, I'm just so passionate about it, looking what are other people doing, what are they doing well, how do they get there? And it could be in a restaurant, what's the service like, what's the lighting like, what are the bathrooms like? When I try to go to the US, London, Europe once a year to check out the awesome gyms over there. Why are they awesome? What are the booking systems like? What are their advertising like? What is their, what's their toilet paper like? All stuff like that. What can I learn to be better? Because there's definitely people out there doing it better than me. What are they doing? You don't have to make the mistakes. People have made the mistakes already to get to where they are. So you can jump on top of their shoulders and get there in a faster time than what they did by learning their mistakes.
Yeah, success leaves clues.
Success leaves clues.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of that. Take me through, when did you kick off your current business?
Yeah, great. So we are coming up to our 12th birthday next week.
Oh, congratulations.
So I was living in Bondi. So I was single-ish in my, so what's 13 years ago, how old am I now? I'm 45. So what's that? Early 30s. Early 30s, I decided, quarter life crisis, I moved to North Bondi and I was loving life. So I just was getting really into my running then, was running ultra marathons. And at that time, yoga was still quite herbal. So this is around 2010. So yoga wasn't the beautiful people, amazing studios that it is today. It was kind of incense and tea and, dirt on the ground type scenario there. And there was a studio in North Bondi called Dharmashala, which I think it still exists, but not in that format. So training for ultra marathon, I'm not built like a typical marathon runner. I'm still built like a footballer. I was getting quite sore, so I decided to incorporate some yoga into my training. And I went to this studio and there was this just incredible yoga teacher there named Kate Kendall. And whenever her classes were on, they literally had to lock the doors and go, we cannot fit another human in here, get out. So I was doing her yoga classes. Her yoga classes were amazing. It made a big difference to my running. And then Kate and I became friends, so much so she started doing personal training with me. And she found that she was getting benefit from her yoga, benefit in her yoga from the strength work we were doing. I found the yoga was helping me with my running. And then we thought we could be something in this. We were having a juice at the Depot Cafe in North Bondi, which still exists, but it just moves. That I was meeting with Kate and I said, Kate, you were such an amazing yoga teacher. I think you should do your own studio. And she said, I'm not sure about that, Benny. But the following week, she was off to a Lululemon Ambassador Summit in Banff. So she came back a couple of weeks later. She was all inspired. And she's like, right, I want to do this yoga studio. Thank you. You've inspired me. I've came back pumped up, but I would only do it if you do it with me. I was like, right, okay. I still had my 3 personal training studios at the time. They weren't my own brand, so I wasn't super passionate about the brand. I was passionate about helping people in the industry, but not necessarily the brand per se. So then I said to Kate, I said, well, let me go away and think about it. And then I came back to her and I said, well, okay, let's do this, but I would only do it if we incorporate some cardiovascular and fitness work as well. So that's kind of where we came up with the model of yoga, strength and fitness in a boutique setting. So that was 2011. 2012, we went to the States just for a big trip just to see what they were doing over there. We went to California, all over there, studios called Yaz, Yoga and Spin, studio called Exhale, that was more like yoga Pilates. We went to Equinox and we saw, so Equinox is a beautiful high-end gym over there. They were doing circuit training before F45 even existed.
Oh, wow.
So things that we picked up were like, okay, let's do bar classes. Let's have, beautiful boutique like towels and bathrooms. Let's do circuit training. I mean, obviously everyone now goes, fucking circuit training, but it was,
Everyone's doing it. now,
2010, 2011, it was like, wow, circuit training's cool, So we brought all those things back into flow and the model still holds up today, 13 years later
Wow.
of the yoga, strength, spin and personal training. People walk in and still go, oh, wow, this is really cool, So, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And so you've got now 15 team members at your location?
It's probably like 30 all up.
30 in total. Okay.
But some part-time, some full-time.
Okay.
So that was kind of part of our vision as well, is in my previous business, there wasn't enough money in the business to be able to pay people well.
Yes.
I wanted to be able to have a business that made enough income to be able to pay a number of people really well so they could have full-time roles, because full-time roles are pretty rare in the fitness industry, like holiday pay, sick pay, things like that, especially as a trainer. But I wanted to have great people that I really cared about, and I wanted them to be able to have a career, have a family, have a house, have holidays within our business setting. So that was what we were really passionate about, being able to create that business that was be able to provide from a number of people.
And so now you guys service quite a diverse set of clients. I think my understanding is that you also support with Sydney Marathon.
Yeah. So I mean, they're kind of the two roles of mine. So, I mean, Flow Athletic with around 900 members. It'd be 65% female, 35% male. Our probably average age is like, 35 plus. Great clients, brand loyal, value customer service, value the team. So that's a big part of my life. But then the other part of my life, which I'm super passionate as well, I've been working for Sydney Marathon for the last 2 years, and then this upcoming year, Sydney Marathon got named as the 7th Abbott's World Major Marathon.
Yes.
Which is really exciting.
Huge. Yeah.
We're going to have 35,000 runners this year, and I'm the head coach
Wow.
for Sydney Marathon too.
Very exciting.
Which is great. And the what I love around the Sydney Marathon organisation, so the company that owns the rights to the Sydney Marathon is called Pont3. CEO is a great man by the name of Wayne Larden, was an incredible runner himself, is that they really care about diverse communities, and it's not just lip service, and it's not just things that make them money. In fact, it costs them money, but they really do care about their First Nations strategy. They do really care about their youth strategy. Last week, I was out with the Muslim runners group, and they were an amazing group of humans.
Yep.
It was their first day of Ramadan, and they were out there running.
Wow.
So running is just such
Not easy. Yeah.
an amazing modality to get people to connect and feel better about themselves. And it's not about the 2-3 hour marathon runner. It's about the 4, 5, 6, 7 hour marathon. And again, what I love about marathons, if people can achieve this thing that they didn't believe was possible for them, and once they cross that finish line, what else can I do in my life, So it's a microcosm for what else can I achieve in my life.
If I was wanting to get ready to run the marathon in August, what would you be telling me to do?
Yeah, so it would be first of all, I'll just get your body checked over, make sure everything's okay, back, knees, hips, ankles, cool. If that's all good, I would start off slower. I would start with a walk. Let's start with a walk. Okay, that half-hour walk, how'd that feel? I felt okay, great. Let's start with a little bit of an interval jog. Let's jog for 30 seconds, walk for a minute. Let's do that 10 times. Good, that felt okay. Now we're going to jog for 45 seconds, and we're just going to inch it up, because I want you to finish that session. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to feel good. I don't want you to go, that was horrible, I'm never doing that again. And before you know it, after a month, you're running for 10 minutes. After 2 months, you're running for 30 minutes. After 3 months, you're running for 90 minutes, and that incremental increase adds. It's like the magic of compound interest. It keeps on growing, and you feel better, and you're getting fitter, and you're enjoying it more. I think, obviously pretty much everyone on the planet has seen the explosion of run clubs, but run clubs are amazing. People get there's two great things about run clubs are support from the people there and accountability that you're going to show up because that you've told Sarah and Jono that you're going to be there. So when that alarm goes off at 5:20, guess what? You're getting up and you're going to be there. So there's great value in that too.
So that protocol of starting with something easy so that you walk out of it and have a smile on your face, that's really designed to bridge the mental gap. It's not about the physical side, right?
It's both.
Yes.
Because I don't want to say, right, okay, so first run we're going to do 10Ks because you're going to injure your calf
Not be
or
happy.
you're going to hurt your back and then you won't be able to run for a month and then we'll have to start from the beginning again. I'd rather make every step, even a slight incline, but we're climbing that mountain as opposed to trying to start halfway up and sliding back down again.
That makes sense. Is it better to try to run fast in the lead up to a marathon, or is it better to try to just take it slow but to hit distance, or is there like a specific split?
So one of the great, running theorists, philosophers is about 80-20. So 80% of your weekly volume should be done at an easy intensity and only 20% should be hard. So say, for example, if you're doing 4 sessions a week, we're doing 3 of those at about a 6 out of 10, and you finish those and you feel good, and only one of them you're busting your ass.
Yeah, okay. Is there specific distances that one should aim for?
I mean, there is, but it just depends on where you are on your journey. I'm working with this awesome young man that just wants to run Sydney Marathon, and we're starting out with 2K runs, and that's it. And then we're building it up to 2.2 and 2.5, and it's just about where's he's at. And then I've got another great client of mine where we're going out for a 26K run.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference.
On Saturday morning. But you just need to meet the client, the individual, about where they are at on their journey and progress them from there. So one thing about, if anyone ever gets the chance to be in New York for the New York Marathon and be at the finish line and watch the people cross the line. So an average marathon time is around, say, 4.5 hours. Being at the New York finish line to watch people cross the line at 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, try and not cry watching these people that have
so much determination,
physical challenges, that have had, other huge obstacles that they've overcome, and they've still completed the marathon. That is what the marathon is about. Watching people overcome huge odds to beat the 42.2. That is inspiring.
Yeah, very inspiring. What about nutrition, Ben?
Yes.
What would you be suggesting to someone training or getting ready for Sydney Marathon in August?
Again, it's quite, as I'm still educating myself all this time in. How long I've been doing this? 18 to 40. So now heading my way up to 30 years. Jesus. Yes. It's quite an individual approach, but I'm on a real big kick at the moment. No processed foods and no sugar. So that's actually been one of the most life-changing things that I've done with my own nutrition.
Keto, or just no processed, no sugar?
No, not keto per se. I'm still eating lots of fruit and veg, but it's just about where that food's coming from. I am, having played rugby league, I'm quite conscious of my brain health. And I've been doing quite a bit of reading about it, and they talk about brain inflammation from processed foods and processed foods and sugars. So I decided to cut them out, and I've never felt so better. Good.
I know.
So that would be, you definitely need enough protein, because protein is the building block of muscle. That's going to help you recover. You're going to need enough carbohydrates, because the carbohydrates, the glycogen stored in your muscles, that's actually going to be the fuel for your running. It's going to be different amounts from me to you to the next person, just depending on their size, depending on how much storage they've got, depending on their body composition, depending on how much exercise they're doing. But that's what I would look at as a baseline, is how can I reduce my processed foods and sugars and fill that more up with, meats, fruits, veg.
Why do you think that those like processed carbs and sugars, why do you think that we feel better when we're not digesting them or ingesting them?
Well, I just don't believe that, the human body wasn't intended to consume those foods, and then it leads to inflammation of the body and inflammation of the brain, and you just feel like shit afterwards. And the irony is, you go, oh, I'm exhausted. I need chocolate bar, pasta, chips, whatever. So you eat it, and then afterwards you just feel worse.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a bit of a vicious cycle. Get off the roller coaster. And I was listening to a great pod the other day. It might have been like Diary of a CEO or something like that. And they were talking about willpower, but they were saying you only really need the willpower for the first couple weeks
To form the habit.
because then after that it's a habit. So, I know myself that I don't eat sugar, I don't eat processed foods, but I don't even miss it. Even on Christmas Day at our house, there was pavlova and chocolates and stuff like that out on the table. And it wasn't me being a tough guy saying, no, I'm good. I actually did not feel like it because initially I had to, use my willpower to resist. But after that, it's just like not even a conscious thought for me.
I feel like sugar's the worst. Once you start eating a little bit of sugar once or, 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, then all of a sudden you start craving it. Whereas once you stop like personally, I find I can stop for 2 weeks and then I have absolutely zero craving for anything with sugar.
Yeah. It really is. They say they've done the lab rat tests on addictive qualities between sugar and cocaine, and that the sugar is more addictive than cocaine on the lab rats. So, but I think once you break out of that cycle mentally and physically, you feel so much better.
Yeah. Every year I try to go keto for, 2-ish months to just see how I feel. And I always feel absolutely phenomenal in ketosis. But I also find it extremely hard with my lifestyle and work and travel and trying to balance everything to stay ketogenic, because not everybody obviously supports it. For those that don't know, it's going without carbs effectively. But yes, when I'm not in keto or doing keto, then I try to just avoid processed and sugar and feel so much better.
And I think there's more and more research coming out about that eating the less processed foods, eating less processed carbs is so much better for your physical and mental health.
That's right.
Factually.
Yeah. And Ben, what are your thoughts on, I know there's a lot at the moment on the internet about ice baths and saunas and all these different sort of growth hacking things.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. Lots of thoughts. I like objectivity and science and learning. So from my understanding, there is lots of science. I mean, I look at it from the running point of view because I'm head coach of Sydney Marathon. So I've got 35,000 athletes under me. I've got a fitness facility that I own with 900 clients. So people ask me lots of questions and I like to have an educated response for them. From the data I've seen, saunas does have data to say, yes, that does help with your health. It helps with your blood volume. So therefore it is going to help with your exercise and all that. So infrared sauna, yes, 100%. What I've seen in terms of data on ice bath makes you feel good, but does this help you with your health? Jury is still out. So for me, when I do get the time, I focus more on infrared saunas. It doesn't have to be for an hour. It can be 15, 20, 25 minutes. Sauna, ice bath, I do love, but it just makes you feel good. Is it actually doing anything objectively for my health. Not sure.
What about traditional sauna? Like, do you think there's a difference?
No. I think infrared or traditional can be kind of interchangeable.
What are you looking forward to in the next year, Ben?
What am I looking forward to in the next? So I'm looking forward to, a couple of things. Probably the biggest one, Sydney Marathon's first time as an Abbott's World Major. So when you think, Wayne Larden, Sydney Marathon CEO, took over the race in 2003, a couple of years after the Sydney Olympics, with the aim of it being an Abbott's World Major. There's been plenty of years where the race ran at a loss and only had hundreds of people in it, literally hundreds. Then when I got involved was like 3 years ago, we had like 5,000 runners. So this year we will have 35,000 runners.
It's huge.
Capped
Yeah.
with a wait list of like 100,000.
Yeah.
All
I
right?
heard that. Yeah. I heard that tickets just
Yeah.
disappeared.
So it is insane. So that is the most exciting thing for me this year is Sydney Marathon's first year as an Abbott's World Major, me being head coach. And then the other exciting thing, my beautiful wife, she's got a jewelry brand that is growing exponentially. So just seeing where she can take that and then just spending time with my kids.
Are you running in the marathon in August?
I will run, but I run with, what do we call the program? It's called the Notable Athlete Program. So I will run with a celeb of some description and just chaperone them.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Do you know who your celebrity is yet?
No, we're still in talks
Very
with different people. I mean, the race has kind of changed. My role has changed over the years because the last couple of years we've been busting our ass to get sponsors and to get people in running because we had to hit a certain threshold to be able to be named an Abbott's World Major. We had to get 15,000 runners last year to be able to make the criteria to be a World Major. But now we're a World Major. We will sell out every year forever and have thousands of people on the wait list. So we don't have to worry about trying to get people to run it anymore or trying to get sponsors anymore because we'll be sold out and have sponsors forever.
Yeah.
But now what we do get to do is work on our inclusivity, which is something we do really care about because we are sold out and got sponsors. We can work on our youth program. We can work on our First Nations program. We can work on our LGBTIQ plus program, all things like that we really care about because we don't have to worry about, are we going to make the majors or not? We're there. So now we can work on those projects that are really close to our heart and really mean something to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you run the Sydney Marathon now, how many marathons will that have been? That you run?
So Sydney will be my 50th.
Wow.
So
That's insane.
Gold Coast, I'm going to run, what's that, like the 16th of July. So I'm going to have a crack at Gold Coast, see what kind of time I can do. I want to do my fastest time in my 30s and 40s. And then Sydney, it depends on what kind of notable athlete I get to run with, depending on how fast. But again, for me, it's a PR activity. It's not about me on that day. And then potentially, as long as my wife's not listening to this, I am probably going to run Chicago later in the year and have it's meant to be a fast flat course. So I want to try to get, so in running, guys, they talk about a BQ, that's a Boston qualifier. So Boston is the most prestigious marathon on the planet.
Yes.
Okay, and if you run a BQ, that's like
You're in.
I've got a big winner type energy. So that is my, and even if you don't end up running Boston, just to run a BQ
It's huge.
is like the thing. So I think for me, that one of the only values of getting older is your Boston qualifier gets
Lower.
or
Yes.
gets a higher time. So I think it's like a 3:15 for me. I'm now in the 45 to 54 category. But a 3:15, but because then so many people run 3:15, you've got to run like 8 minutes under that. So I've got to run like a 3:07 or something like that to make it.
Do you feel confident you're going to hit the time?
No,
Oh,
not at all. But that's a good thing.
Okay.
Like, it's going to be really hard.
yeah.
And I'm going to have to train really hard, and that's the
Push
whole
yourself. Yeah.
that's the whole point of it, is to do something. Not you don't think I could do. I could think I could do it, but I'm going to have to bust my ass to do so. So yeah, so order of that. So Sydney Marathon, my wife's business, spending time with the kiddos, and then trying to run a BQ. I mean, and obviously just growing. You know, I love my job with the gym. I love my job with Sydney Marathon. So just helping my team grow, helping my community, you know, grow. So yeah, no, I'm pretty fortunate in my roles of what I get to do.
And Ben, where can I find out more about you if I'm curious to speak to you or be?
Yeah. So people can just probably through the socials, even though I wasn't talking badly of the socials, I was just saying education is important before. So probably through Instagram, Ben Lucas is probably the best place to hit me up, or email just ben@flowathletic.com.
Ben, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.